What is happening, everybody? We're back. We're doing race reviews. The World Cups are back, and I'm excited. This was one of the closest races or World Champs races I have seen in a long time. It's the first one actually wasn't a part of it last year, to be fair, but this one was the one where I've retired and I've watched from the outside, and I will say one of the best races I've watched in terms of how close it was, how many wild cards came into play, and just different storylines that played out. I'm gonna put this out there now. I said for my picks was Luke. I thought was going to get the win, which it was looking like that was going to happen before he obviously fell over. Loris was going to be second, and then I put Ollie Davis in third, and then the wild cards I think were Ronan and Danny Hart. I feel like I got a few of those right. I feel like we got some close picks there. And then the women, I thought Valley was going to have a mistake. She didn't. She obviously got the big W. I thought Pom Pom was going to take it out, who got second, and then Tani got third. So it's the racing. I'm quite happy with my picks. I'm happy with my picks. I should have done a fantasy league, but I've given up on that because of you, Pink Bike. You put me off it. I think Ride Concept is doing a fantasy league as well, though. So jump over there. The boys are doing great things. So if you want to jump over there, check that out. I think it'd be good. But I want to get into the race, and there was a few standouts. We'll go through the results first, just to get us started. But Loris Vergier got the win by 0.14 of a second. Absolutely nothing. In third, Finn Isles, 0.016. So nothing again. Then Danny Hart, 0.283. And then Armory in fifth, 0.457. So first to fifth were all within 0.04 of a second. That's ridiculous. That is actually ridiculous to how close you can be to winning a World Championships and be in that bracket. Like, all of them obviously could have got the win. I'm super, not surprised, but I'm pumped to see Danny Hart laying it down in fourth after this year not even having a ride going into the season. Just think about that. Not even having a ride going to this World Cup season, and he was 0.2 off being the world champion this year. That is insane to me. That is the reality that we're kind of living in. I know the bike industry's had a bit of a struggle, and it's hard for people to get rides and funding and everything like that. And there's obviously stuff going on with the World Cup schedules and events and stuff like that. But man, I just wanted to see Danny win, because what a just a to the industry to not have a ride at the start of the year and then come back and become world champion. So I was rooting for Danny for this one. Loris as well. He's obviously been right there for so long. And I feel like Loic somewhat would have to be not happy, but the fact that they grew up racing together, they're really good friends. And if he's going to crash, I think obviously Loris would be the next person that he'd want to do well. So I feel like it's a bit bittersweet, but Loic's obviously won a lot of world championships and he's still the man. And I think it's going to be an epic battle between him and Armory going to the final legs of this year. You can see he's got the speed, which I was actually a little bit surprised with Armory that even though he almost won still, he was only 0.4 of a second off. I thought he would have had the same pace as Loic. Like, Loic was almost 2 seconds up just before he crashed, and I thought Armory would have been on that same pace, kind of separating themselves from the rest of the field. But it wasn't to be, and like you see in this racing, that it is so tight, and then any little mistake is really going to add up. But one of the things that I was super surprised about, and the keys to the race, keys to the moto, what the hell did Danny Hart do in the middle section of this track? He was down at the first two splits, and then he just pulled like a second and a half out of nowhere in this middle section. It was like, as you come out this blown out corner and go along like a ski run, he pulled so much time on everyone. Everyone was like 1.5 up, 1.6 up, whatever it may be. And then there'd be a like point whatever down or a second down. And he just absolutely blitzed everyone in the middle bit. So it's surprising when you see a track like this where you're like, oh, there's no time to be made. But then someone can make up so much time in such a small section of track. There was a couple corners, a double into like a long, kind of not longish straight into this catch. And it was like people weren't committing to that catch enough, and you could see they were coming out and they were losing a lot of speed over this ski run. And I'd have to go back and watch it, but I think Danny just hit it so well and just carried speed the whole way through, and that momentum carried him down to the bottom, which was incredible. Also, someone that crashed out that could have got the W, Dakota Norton. I thought if he held it together, he was, I think, point 5 up on Loris before he crashed. So he definitely could have been a guy to snatch the win. I know Loris had a really good bottom section, so it is hard to say, but to see you being up by that much with the last little section of track to go and then crashing like that, like, it's going to be bittersweet. Bittersweet for Dak, but also he's got to know that he is riding at that level consistently now, and he can ride for World Cup wins, and I reckon he will get one soon. You can't be that consistent and that fast all the time and not get a win. So I think it is coming. I just don't know when. Now, one of my most bittersweet things to the race, and one of the things I'm feeling for the most, Benoit Coulange. Second again. He got second back in 2021 to Greg Minnaar at Val de Sol by, I think, the same margin, or like 0.02 of a second. Absolutely nothing. He threw everything at this again and just missed out by 1/100th of a second. Oh, that feeling of just being so close it's got to be gut-wrenching, but he, again, is really found himself at the pointy end of these World Cups every single week, in and out now. So he's got to still be happy with that. But you just know, you just think that at point 1 would haunt you. It would haunt you for so long to just be like, ugh, we're right there. And then also with Finn just being point 1 back as well. Like, it's why we love and hate this racing when it is that tight and that competitive. It's great to watch, but it also is so disheartening when you're just on that wrong end of that second or that bubble. So yeah, it is one of those things. Notable ride, Ollie Davis. He was my pick for third. He laid it down in 8th, and it's cool to see getting his confidence back now and actually riding like he knows he can. I thought after that time training run where he was 8th as well, that I'm like, okay, you've got some confidence now, you're riding well, this track suits you. It's a bit like the blown out Aussie tracks we ride back here, and it's flat out. I was like, you should do well. It's just when you get your head in that right space. So I'm super excited to see how he finishes off the season now, and obviously coming onto a new team with Syndicate and then having to kind of prove himself with Jackson being out. And it's been cool to see that he's kind of been carrying that team, like going on to arguably one of the best teams in the world, if not the best team. And the key rider being Jackson is injured, and then Laurie having his issues as well. It's like, that's a lot of pressure on your shoulders to perform when you're kind of not the fill-in ride, but that's kind of how they framed it in a way. And to come in as the fill-in ride in quotations, and then be getting the best results and being consistently building and getting better as the year goes on. So beyond proud of where Ollie's gone and where he's going to go, and just see him being the world, like the fastest Aussie in the world as well as being 8th. It's, yeah, you have these moments when you go, okay, this was cool. I always think back to, I've told this story plenty of times, but I was sitting in his kitchen one morning after I'd go to the gym. I'd go see him before he'd go to school, and he was just complaining to his mum, saying how I don't want to go to school. And his mum saying, well, you better ride your bike bloody fast and you won't have to, or not have to go to school, but not have to go to work. And to see that now, that he is fighting for world championship podiums and being right in the mix, is, it all happens quite quickly from that to that. But it's pretty amazing to see that someone that I've helped play a part in their career and pushing them in a certain direction has used that momentum to go so far and will even go further. So yeah, that was definitely a very proud moment. Obviously, what I just touched on the women, Valley Hall got the win by 0.5 over Miriam Nicole, and then Tani Seagrave 1.2 back in third, and then Gracie Hemstring in fourth. The girl racing as well is just super tight between everyone. Like, you can just see that the level has been not so much the level, but the consistency of top women that are just constantly there now. Like, there was always, obviously you've got your standouts, but there's always seemed to be maybe the top 5 and then it drops off. And now it just seems like the consistency through to like 10th to 15th is just wild cards coming in all the time, and just making it such an exciting race to watch. But if we look at the men's The wild cards, I thought, yeah, were Danny Hart, Ronan down in 6, Angel Suarez. He's got to be happy with that, like coming back after some issues as well. Ollie Davis in 8th, Thibaut Depella. He was actually first at the first 2 splits by quite a margin, and then just seemed to like fade or make mistakes at the bottom. But again, it's like what Danny did in that middle bit. He just pulled time back on everyone. Remy Tyrion was 10th, Matt Walker 11th. He's kind of finding his form and getting him back to his old self. Dylan Maples in 12th. Austin Dooley in 13th. Austin Dooley's the man. I'm just going to put it out there. Austin Dooley, new king of Morzine, throws down every time. I give it to Austin Dooley. Laurie Greenlang, 14th. Jackson Jewett, 15th. Lockie Stevens McNabb, 16th. Lucas Shaw in 17th. David Palzari, 18th. Charlie Hatton, the world champion from last year, in 19th. And Martin Mays, the man, holding down that top 20. But also a story of the race, Greg Minnaar announced his retirement. This will be his last world championship. So I feel like we're lining up that this is his last year racing World Cups. Who knows if that's going to continue next year, maybe doing a few World Cups here and there, depending if he wants, or whether he's going to be more invested in being a part of the team and building up that team. Him and PD can compete against team managers now, but I don't think he's going to leave the World Cup circuit. I think it is very much his home, and I think he's going to hang around. But he announced that this was his last World Championships racing, kind of in his semi-hometown of Andorra. Obviously, he's from Pietermaritzburg, but he lives in Andorra now. So to finish it in a place that he can call home, I think would be quite special. So I'm not sure exactly where he ended up. I think he might have been in the 20s, but he, he's had quite the career. Where did Greg end up? Greg Williamson. Where's Greg Minnaar? Maybe he was a bit further back. Greg. Greg Minnaar. Greg Minnaar was 23rd, 3.6 seconds back. So, yeah, finish off, 43 years old. 23 or something world championships he's done. I think he's been a 2 or 3 time world champion. It's pretty epic to see. I sent him a message that it was a cool transition from being someone I idolized to then someone I competed against, then someone I could call a friend, and then to share the podium with him in Lenzerheide in 2015 when he became the greatest of all time. Like, the steps through the journey that is life, and to see someone you idolize become a friend and then a competitor and then be able to share a moment like that is going to be something I'm going to hold quite close to my heart for a long time. I'm glad I got to experience that and be a part of that journey and a part of that storyline. So it was epic to see, Greg hang up the world champs boots, and then it's going to be awesome to see where he goes from now. But I think I'll leave it here, but that's pretty much, my take. Oh, also, if anyone watched the coverage on KO, what was that? What was that? It was cutting out. I missed half the riders. The commentary sounded like Nigel Thornberry. They didn't even commentate the race. They just talked about things that have happened in the past. And like watching moments where Greg almost had a moment. I think Andreas Kobe almost had a moment. They're not even commentating what's happening. I was like, guys. Ugh. So that was a bit frustrating. But besides that, everything else went quite well. Let me know what you thought of the coverage. I don't know how you watched it. I watched it on KO, but it was all over the shop and kind of hopeless. The commentary was But let me know what you guys thought was the most exciting part of the race, who you thought was a standout, and if you want to see me do more of these. I want to get more back into the mountain biking side of things. I want to start interviewing mountain bike people again. I want to kind of get that going again. I've been a bit distant from it for a while. As you can see, I haven't actually even ridden a mountain bike since my accident, but I think it's time to kind of lean back into it a little bit. I do miss parts of it, and I would like to get more involved in it again. Even when I was watching the race, like I would kind of like try and pick split times of where people would be from watching, and I felt like I was pretty close most of the time. I was like, okay, you've got some knowledge here that translates over, so I think I need to use that and lean back into it a little bit more and not be so distant from it. But we needed a little break from it, and now I think we're ready to get stuck back in. But let me know what you think, guys. Love you a lot, and I will see you very soon. Cheers.